And we're going to invite in Dr. Matt Waymack, who's the Director of E-Class Development from Gwinnett County Public Schools, which I'm super excited to hear from because, like I said, talking to Tricia, Gwinnett is a unique situation of being highly evolved and very capable of getting past the old traditional structure to the new structures. And so what they're doing already is an exemplar to the rest of the country. So Matt, I have you on here, and I'm also going to make sure, just before I have you talk, because I don't see your screen share yet, Dana Hollander, are you able to say who you are? Because that was your video we just showed. Dana, are you on here? I think I sent you your pin. We just want to hear your happy voice. So if we don't hear from you, I'm going to say what you were going to say. Okay, so Dr. Waymack, just before you go, I'm going to say what Dana was going to say about Scholastic here as our sponsor. She's the Director of Digital Instruction at Scholastic Education, one of our favorites. And you know, she says, you know and trust Scholastic as a partner to help bring literacy resources to children across the country. At Scholastic, we believe that literacy is the gateway to all things possible for our students. We work to supply school districts as they support students in becoming literate, productive citizens. If you are looking for adaptive and personalized programs, we have award-winning programs available. If you need digital Scholastic books, we have those as well. In addition, if your district is sending home physical and digital book packs for students, please shoot me a message. We have many cost-effective programs and processes to deliver physical books directly to students' homes to keep students reading every day during this pandemic. So that's Dana Hollander. She's at dhollander@scholastic.com. Dana, since we couldn't hear you, I know you came in from a phone today. We're going to put your email address in for everyone to get to because we do want people introduced to Scholastic. All right, so Dr. Waymack, I think we can hear you now. I'm going to make sure you're unmuted. We can see your screen. Okay, you're unmuted. I'm so happy to have you. Did you like what I said about Gwinnett? Because it's all true.
I tell you what, I like coming to hear what you have to say at the Learning Council whenever I get a chance, because what you say is it's very perceptive. It comes through a lot, and so I appreciate what you said. What you said a whole lot. Hey, is my webcam on? I don't see myself, and I don't see my presentation.
I see your presentation, and your webcam is trying to be on. Do you have a little sticky over it or something, or maybe it's turned the wrong direction?
Negative.
No. Okay. Well, we'll just pretend you're like, you know, in that black screen there, and we'll pretend to see you.
Nice. That's okay. I even wore a suit. I wore a suit as well. So, yeah. Thank you all for the opportunity to be able to speak with you all. And I'm Matt Waymack. I'm with Gwinnett School System, Gwinnett County Public Schools. My title is Director of E-Class Development, and E-Class really is kind of a part of Gwinnett's. It involves our digital transition, to use the wording for the day. And we've been doing for Gwinnett County. This is metropolitan Atlanta. Of course, this is the Georgia event. We've got 141 schools. We're a big district. We're actually a little bit smaller than we were last year. We were closer to 180 last year, but due to the circumstances at hand, we're just a little bit less. We get like 12,000 teachers. Our students, they have access to a plethora of digital resources. They do, everything is managed through a single portal, and we have two major vendors that we utilize to deliver our digital instruction. We got D2L, Brightspace D2L is our primary LMS, there is my webcam right there. You can see me now. Very, very good.
Yes, we can see you now. Awesome,
I
awesome.
smell real big. I thought I had it clicked, but I guess I didn't have it clicked. So congratulations. I wore a suit for you guys to talk to you today.
Good.
Yeah. So, and Safari is also one of our major partners as well. They're very important in terms of being a repository, a content repository. We have a great partnership there, and we also leverage a number of other digital text as well. So we have prior to COVID, Gwinnett schools, we have done fully digital learning before. It's been reserved for bad weather, inclement weather, and we had done it 4 times prior. And of course, then, March 12th, we went fully digital. So what's good is that we weren't going in cold turkey. Our teachers had practices before, did have some background, and our curriculum and instruction department has been key in providing resources and content for our teachers. And we've used digital tools just instructionally for 8, 9 years. I start losing count after a while. And working with our curriculum department, we've developed lessons and resources that our teachers can use. But going fully online, as we all know in this space here, is different than it is when you're just using digital resources in a face-to-face setting. So when we knew in February this was happening, it was imminent, that we thought it was very likely that we would be digital for some period of time. We started working with our curriculum departments to develop more student-facing resources. We have a fully online school in Gwinnett County, Gwinnett Online Campus. We leverage their resources. We have an excellent virtual school in Georgia, Georgia Virtual School. We've worked with Georgia Virtual Learning and leverage some of their resources. And just working with our curriculum areas, in the spring, we were fully online. We looked at some other strategies. One that comes to mind is just having Friday to be flexible. That can be used in multiple different ways. So we got through to May, not knowing what was going to happen come fall, but knowing what was going to happen come fall, for kind of all of this together. And again, I didn't say at the beginning, but I'd be disingenuous if I was talking here saying, guys, I know the answer. We know the answer to everything, which we don't. I mean, we're all still kind of learning. This is a continuous learning process. But over the summer, we were evaluating what do we need to start fall. Well, one of the things that we came up with, one of the things that we entered into a contract with Zoom, to have a district Zoom license that our teachers could leverage and use. This was in our portal that I showed right at the beginning. That's how our teachers get to their Zoom account. The students get to their Zoom account, and that's cut down on some of the mischievous behavior that sometimes you see with Zoom. One thing that was real that we knew we needed to address was, well, what happens when our teachers are sick? And we're going to need subs. We're going to need subs to come in and help out. I mean, just because you always need subs, period. Because always on any given day, there's X number of percentage of people out. We work to develop a substitute training and getting them access to the resources that they needed. Our new teachers, and that was interesting, because we're bringing in new teachers that have never taught before, even, and now they're going to have to teach in this digital hybridized environment. So our new teacher orientation was all virtual. So that was very interesting, and we learned a lot through that process, and for moving forward. So our fall instructional options, what's that going to look like? Well, we give our parents a choice, and it's hard. I mean, it's hard because based on the information that the school district receives, parameters keep changing. So it's hard to, it's a real challenging situation for everybody. But we give our parents a choice. You can go fully online, or you can go digital, or face-to-face. Excuse my slide, it's incorrect. It's either fully online or face-to-face. So we did start with a phased-in return. We started digital. I think our first 2 weeks we announced that we totally digital, and then we started bringing our kids back that had elected to be face-to-face. We started with a couple grade levels by school level, middle, elementary, high, and over a period of 3 weeks, we brought everyone in to be that was going to be back face-to-face. And the most current stats that I've seen, we're about 45% that are actually physically attending. It's a little, I mean, a little less than half. And the attendance of kids that are coming varies by school, because we've got 141 schools. We have a bunch of schools. And we've got one school that they're almost at 60% that are physically attending. And we've got one that I spoke to the other day that's less than 20. So it's kind of interesting. It's kind of it's a variety depending upon who is there. Makes for a very quiet lunch period. So scheduling, as Leilani was talking earlier, and I think everyone on this webinar is kind of in the same position. Scheduling is really, it's a real challenge because you're trying to determine who's face-to-face, who's digital, and then there's this word we'll throw out here, concurrent, that we've started using in Gwinnett. I'll talk over that in just a second, but our schools are doing different options. We've got some that your teacher's going to be online, or your teacher's going to be face-to-face. That's pretty rare when one teacher's just totally delegated into one category. What's a little more common is that some teachers will teach periods that are totally online or periods totally face-to-face. It's more common, but because of this realities of scheduling and the way, I mean, it's just scheduling the way it's worked, a lot of our teachers are having to use what we call a concurrent model. And essentially that means is that students, by your class, they're learning digitally in person, and in person, they're both going at the same time. You got some of your roomies and you got some of your Zoomies is what they're being referred to as. And they're both going at largely at the same time. And we recognize in Gwinnett that this absolutely requires the most support, because it's not something that's particularly easy to do. Okay, so what I'm showing here, this is not typical for our schools. I say it's not typical. This is kind of like the gold standard nirvana if I had to teach in a concurrent format where some of my kids were at home, some of my kids are right in front of me. This is Gwinnett Online Campus. They have part of their program is they have students come in for face-to-face labs, and they all don't have to come in, but it's a live session where the students have an opportunity to physically interact with an adult if they so choose to do so. So in this case, you'll notice in this setup, which no teacher has except for very rare situations, you've got monitors in the front for instruction. You've got a whole separate monitor in the back of the classroom that lets the teacher see all the people who are on Zoom or whatever web conference equivalent that you're using. There's multiple cameras. We have one camera that's tracking the teacher as the teacher walks around the room. And you've got multiple microphones, including one with lapel mic. So a challenge when doing concurrent learning is you have students that have a mask on. So you've got students that mumble in the first place wearing a mask, and it creates communication issues. Further, you can't see their lips and so forth. But having a situation like this is like the gold standard, but it's obviously not replicable just because of cost. We do realize that it requires most support. It's been the focus of district level support. One item that our curriculum officers are working hard on is they are working on more student-facing type resources, almost resources that teachers can just have, and boom, it's right there. It's there for the students to directly use, kind of a la those of you who have taught online, you get a course that's largely set up kind of along those lines. It's kind of what they're trying to work towards, but it's hard. And another thing is relationships are really important. And what we've heard a lot of our teachers say are things that people in the online environment have said, well, we don't know where our students are. We can't see them. Student doesn't want to be on camera because they don't like how they look on camera, or whatnot. But the social emotional component, we're really working on that. And further, because we started online and some of our teachers have never physically seen their students. And that's just very different for our teachers who did not learn in that model. I mean, they did not learn in that model. So they're just at a high level, some of these strategies we're looking at, things like station rotations, individual rotations, re-examining how we address a flipped classroom model. These are all things that we are looking at, we're working on right now. And the reality too is we've got some technical requirements as well, because we always get that question about, oh, what about the kids that don't have a computer, et cetera, et cetera. But one thing, we're not a one-to-one district. We've never claimed to be. I don't know what our latest figures are in terms of devices ratio to students. We have made lots of measures to purchase additional Chromebooks. Of course, you all in districts realize how hard it is to come by it sometimes. We have also gone through and repurposed old Windows machines using a software essentially just to turn them into a Chromebook. We've invested in wireless hotspots. And when people ask the question, what about the kids who don't have X? We did do a needs assessment survey by school, and the school is locally addressing the local needs of the local kids and parents in terms of, providing Chromebooks, providing hotspots, and we also to support the concurrent aspect of things, we're working on hardware for interactivity. So what you're probably seeing in your schools, if you have teachers that are trying to be concurrent, largely the teacher is largely tethered to the front of the classroom. That's just a reality. You have a webcam. I mean, maybe if you're creative, you can have a couple webcams set up on the Zoom so that you can walk around. You got microphone considerations because the Zoomies need to be able to hear the teacher. There's obvious challenges with the roomies and the Zoomies, the people in person and people online, interacting with each other. It's a challenge that we are working as a district to provide our teachers with more resources so that they are not tethered to the front of the classroom, so that our in-person kids and our online kids can have an opportunity to interact with each other more and address that social component that in some cases is just not where it needs to be.
Hey, Matt,
Yes, ma'am.
Hey, Matt, this is Leilani. So for those moments that still need to be, and obviously this is most moments for schools that haven't really transitioned structure, what you're making a case for here is really interesting to me. This is Leilani speaking, everyone on the line. What about swivel, right? The camera that tracks your movement, and then also light speed technologies, which has that audio amplification for both online and also, around the room bouncing sound, especially when everybody's, 6 feet distance, you got real issues with this, right? So you're making the case for not only those sorts of things, but also all the other multi-screens and other stuff. It's really a fantastic vision.
Yeah, that is, I could do anything with money, Leilani.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah. Can we have an extra billion, please, Matt?
Yeah.
Like, that's what you need.
The Learning Council stash. All attendees for Leilani's going to give some for stash from the Learning Council for equipment. No,
Yeah, extra billion just laying around, no problem.
yeah, but I mean, it's a real challenge, and we're all having to, having to kind of work through it together. One thing, this one's okay. I'm trying to gear this ahead. Maybe I should have showed this earlier. The one part of what, because so much right now depends upon our applications working correctly. One thing that we have, what we developed as a district, we have a dashboard that tells us, people like me and my team that I work with, my wonderful team that I work with, for those that are online right now, you need to be able to monitor real time what's happening, because things cannot go down. They cannot go down. And one props, I will give props to our partners. They've had excellent uptime, like the ones that I showed earlier, D2L and Safari. They've done an excellent job with just working, because teachers, especially if they are, when you have teachers that are in a learning process, their tolerance for things not working is very small. Absolutely, things have to work. We have to be able to know what's happening, exactly when it happens, or a lot of times our dashboard has tipped us off to things trending in a wrong direction, or we're able to work with our vendors to intervene before things got bad. But looking at time, it's questions, comments, discussion, complaints.
Okay, we have a question from Edie Millwood, or Eddie Millwood. I think it's Eddie, right? Eddie, you're unmuted on my side.
Hey, okay, thank you. Yeah, I do have a question. Going back to your instructional delivery models with the teachers that, for example, are in doing a full virtual class during a class period. Is that instruction, are they typically instructing an entire class, basically a synchronous model, or is that time used for like individual student conferencing? Is it for grading? Is it for feedback? What does that look like, or is it based upon what the need is?
Yes.
All of that, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks. Hi, Eddie. Totally, it's everything. It's all the above. It just depends on what the teacher is covering, all based on the instructional calendar of the day. It depends on the teacher. It depends on the model. Sometimes it's full group, short full group, which, by the way, I appreciate what Leilani said about the time limits earlier. Or sometimes it's just used for, you're helping a certain amount of kids on Zoom that need help at that point in time, and trying to split the kids into different groups and so forth. It just depends on what's going on, but it's for all the above.
Do you find primarily that model, the concurrent, is that heavier at high school, or is that pretty much across the board with your all three levels?
It's across the board, and it varies by school.
Sure.
It really does, because if we're doing it out of necessity. However, obviously, if a teacher can be concentrating on either or, it's probably going to be less frustrating for the teacher if your scheduling allows you to do so. If the scheduling allows a teacher to be, by period or whatever, to be just focusing online or focusing just face-to-face, that's obviously better. The scheduling stuff, just because of how much physical space you have in school, distancing, the number of staff, and everything also is dependent upon how many students elected to return to the school. With our schools that had 20% showing up face-to-face versus 80% at home, that's a different look than a 60-40 split. It's so school dependent. There's not one, which really makes it tough, because there's not one, for lack of a better word, cookie cutter explanation to guidance to provide people.
Thank you.
Okay, we have another question and comment from Victor Karkar.
Hi, Dr. Waymack. This is, I guess, a question and a comment at the same time. So the question is, is eClass sort of more of a content delivery mechanism, or is it does it also include resources from maybe vendor partners or other folks internally that are sort of more tools oriented? So that's the question, and the context for it is in about half an hour, I'm actually going to be presenting the next keynote speaker. We're one of the sponsors today, and we've actually been working with your librarians there at Gwinnett for a couple of years. So I'm the leader of the company called Scribble. So I wanted to reach out to you, and I'll drop you an email later, because I think we could probably help your efforts there with eClass. But we're an app. We're not a content-oriented solution. That's why I'm asking if there's a way for us to help with what you're doing now.
Well, to answer your question, eClass is our digital transition initiative. As a part of that, we've got multiple platforms, multiple vendors that work in a coordinated effort. As it relates to student instruction, our primary LMS is Brightspace by D2L. Our LOR is Safari. We also have a Google implementation district-wide, and we have various digital textbooks, digital content, and so forth, and then there's also some other media content that we use as well.
Good to know. Thank you.
Got a bunch of stuff.
I'll drop you an email to follow up. Thanks.
Okay, and then was it Camille from Arbor Park, 145?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
I just wondered what the length of your school day looks like with your concurrent model. I know my district is doing the same thing, and we own our own buses. And for parents that want to send their children to campus, a big part of that reason many times is because they need to get back to work. And so, the length of the school day becomes an issue when you're trying to do those simultaneous at-home and in-person learning models concurrently. Just wondered how you worked through that.
Yeah, our school bell schedules are essentially the same. Like from a practical, physical resources standpoint, transportation is important because you got to transport kids. And we don't have enough. Our transportation runs at elementary, or high school, elementary, then middle school, and because we use the same buses for 3 different levels. So as far as that goes, that's necessitated keeping the same start and end school times. Now, as far as schools go, their bell schedules vary by the 141 schools. They do all different things.
When we're full remote, we're 5 hours, but when we have students on campus and we're doing the concurrent model, then we're back to 7 hours for students. So I just wondered if you were saying.
Yeah. I mean, when we were in the spring, when we were totally online, the schools posted the schedules that they were to follow. That being said, some tried to do every period, every day. Some kind of moved to more of a block type formats that wasn't as many, just like alternating 80 blocks based on the day. And they tried some other creative things as well. But the reality is you can only sit in front of a computer so long, as Leon is pointing out that the research is finding.
Thank you.
Let's ask some questions. I'm going to share my screen, and you're on webcam. So let me just share my screen again. Here we go. Okay, so that's you when you didn't have a beard. So we know, Matt.
No shave November, Leilani.
Yeah. Let me see. Where was that? I got to get back to that one slide. Okay, so did you just see that image? Like we made you an image slide, Matt.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
I'm glad I'm wearing a different suit.
We're going to be talking about motivation here in a minute. We're going to invite Scribble to share with us too. But for you, because you're in a district that is so advanced, in terms of like the construct of your flexible digital architecture, unlike a lot of the districts that we saw just jump on the ship this year, you're already at the point where you're looking at how you're going to manage time and space. So I'm showing on the screen right now a slide. This was the game we put. I don't know if you're with us. Were you with us this year, or was that Trisha only that was with us in Dallas this last year in the gathering? No, you weren't there?
I did not go to Dallas.
Okay. Well, this was sort of we rolled out this giant, mouse pad like board with the humans being the game pieces. And we decided to look at space and time, which is what you're addressing, right, with what's needed in the classrooms now. So if you look at that box with what looks like a twister board in it, those are, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's your history path, your math path, your, so forth. But it's within the context of a house room that would have all the stuff you were just talking about technologically, right? Multiple screens, a snack area, a chore area for when you get in trouble and you got to do the vacuuming, and then video chat area, meeting area, interactive whiteboard area, because in this future where there would be true hybrid logistics, the kids are going to be skating along their path, and then they're going to get trigger announcements to flight them out to classrooms. Teachers are going to be leaving those offices and roving through, and then doing meetups out in the labs or the classrooms, right? So the future classroom, I don't think looks like some of what people have been talking about future classrooms so far. They're like, yeah, classroom's the future, woohoo. You are talking about, a majestic array of technologies in the multiple billions. I would go to bat for that with Congress. I agree. So what else do you want to talk about with regards to the vision? Because you're looking at virtual starting to be seamless with physical. What else were you thinking? And I was wanting to show this so it would sort of kick off your dialogue there.
Well, my thoughts when I'm looking at your chart there, it's like, it's like first grade, second grade stations on steroids. It's maybe that's not the best way to phrase it. But just having data with all kinds of options so that the learning becomes, it drives the personalization of the students' learning and what they're doing in the classroom. That is a fascinating drawing that you have there.
Yeah, it's funny. We put this out and then we saw some things posting online, like Israel has a model similar they're advancing now. It's like we both thought of it at the same time. But yeah, so what you were advocating with that room that you showed reminded me of this room, right? There's a school called Tampa Prep down in Florida that has one of those every one of their rooms is like that because it's a private school. They have the money to do it. And they have a screen on both ends, as well as a whiteboard in the middle, right? Interactive whiteboard. I don't know if they have all the cameras or the swivel cameras and the enhanced audio. Definitely altered universe of space, like you were talking about.
Yeah, that one school, that is one very specific situation. if I were to show pictures that just typical classroom in Gwinnett, you would not see anything to that degree. You're still seeing the teachers, they're anchored, you're largely anchored to your desk, because if you're running in a concurrent fashion, you have, in order to include the Zoomies along with the Roomies, you've got to run your instructions or inputs on a computer, which then gets projected onto a screen. In a perfect world, a lot of our schools have provided their, lots the right word for them. I might be overstating that, but some of our schools have either A, provided, or teachers have B, acquired some extra monitors so that they're able to more easily see the kids online and see the instruction on the board as well. And there's other creative things and so forth. If students that are in the room are also bringing it, or BYOD, so students can bring in their own devices. And depending on the student situation, depends on what that can look like as well. It's a very different when the student is using, their phone versus if they have a student issue laptop or their own laptop or whatever. It becomes very interesting because when we look at, I might be segueing or that might need a redirection here. But half of our students are using they're using devices like phone devices, even not necessarily exclusively, but their instruction has to work for that as well. Like if you've got students when they're learning, they go home, they got in terms of scheduling, you got, what do you do? The question is, what do you do with siblings and limited devices? When you have more kids at home than you have devices, then you have so much. Not only do you have scheduling issues with the school and how they're handling things at home, but they've got scheduling issues as well. But
yeah, and I think the funny thing about Gwinnett is that you haven't issued devices, but you have this really advanced architecture of digital resources, which is brilliant. And I don't really know that. I think the jury is still out on whether or not issued devices is the norm forever, because
I concur with that assessment.
Yeah, because I think student choice might be the real, issue about how that, what they use. I know a lot of students, and there's been studies done by the telecommunications companies of what's called the phone firsters. Like they're not used to laptops, and they phone first everything, right? They're so used to typing on a phone that pushing them to a laptop is just kind of a discombobulation. They can't deal with it. And there's a lot of young adults that are phone firsters for everything, including bank transactions, right? So I think the jury's out on that. What's not out is the distribution of the digital knowledge in a finely tuned software architecture, which I think you guys are ahead on. So anything else you want to say about kind of the accomplishments in that? I know Tricia can talk about it too, but you are part of this fabulous team, and I don't really know how Gwinnett has helped corner the market on fabulous people, but I know you're part of a great team.
You're being very kind. Just tell my boss how fabulous I am. That's really all I ask. Well,
I did tell your praises, Matt. You're all of your teams to your superintendent the other day on a webinar.
Oh, that's good. As long as you said Waymack, spell it correctly. WAYMACK. No. But I do work with a lot of good people, but we've also, it's not just us. We've got our neighboring districts. We got just great folks that we interact with, and our job alikes that are in the metro area that we interact with. We all kind of bounce ideas off each other and learn from each other because we don't know everything. I'd be disingenuous and lying if I stand here and say, "Oh, well, we're perfect." we're not. There's a whole lot we've got to learn. It's a real challenge, knowing what to do next, and we know that we've got to improve what we're doing with our models that we have. I think I said it already, maybe, but we work with our curriculum department to. So all of our courses have a sample page, call it a template page, for lack of a better thing to call it. We're working hard to get our resources so that they're more student-facing, so to make life easier on our teachers, not to tell them, hey, this is what you have to do, but to have something for them. Hey, if you need something, here it is. Then you can edit it and make it better, and so forth, if you so desire. Because as already been said in here, I mean, there's real concern about burning our teachers out. I was talking to I was in some discussion recently, and I think the phrase was thrown out. Our teachers are April tired. That was last month. That's not awesome. That's not awesome.
Yeah.
So there's some obviously some real concern, but what it is doing is it's forcing our teachers to use digital tools in a more meaningful way, such that when we're able to resume back to normal, just how awesome might our instruction really wind up being, because we've learned, so many teachers have been pushed out of their comfort zone and learned so many new tools and so many new things. It's really going to ultimately improve things in the long run. At least that's my optimistic view of it at this time.
Yeah, and I think that's a good one. And I think that it would be good with your whole team to start saying normal's not coming back. What do you need, so we can start accumulating a defense fund towards that, and start beating up on management like we need. So what's your Santa list? Let's get started now.
And you're right about the normal. I mean, I think Trish was saying it. I think she was saying it earlier. Mm-hmm. There's a real question mark as to what our parents, our constituents, what they'll want. I mean, because we've given them so many options right now. How do you address that moving forward? And I know that we're not alone in this at all. Our other friends in our respective metro areas are dealing with the same stuff.
Yeah, pretty much all the districts are. I know we had Atlanta Public and I forget the other one, Fulton, on that call with your superintendent, your assistant super in webinar the other day. And I really, Georgia, this, Matt, you guys as a group, the districts around there are probably more advanced on average than the rest of the nation. And you know that, but you also know that the mutation is coming, a more true mutation.
There's been more exposure, say, in Georgia. I mean, just consider our state virtual program. They're pervasive now. At one point in time, it was considered fringe. But they've done a lot just Georgia-wide in terms of educating people about digital possibilities, and making resources available to the state and supporting the districts in the state. They've done a lot as well. They've done a good job with that. Mm-hmm. I'm just calling them out because they're our friends and partners.
Yeah, and that group is a pretty intellectual crowd. I've been always really impressed with them over the years. Okay, so attendees, raise your hand. This is your final countdown to ask Matt some questions and put him on the spot. Something awkward, because Matt can deal with it.
I've got big boy britches, yeah.
Yeah, he's got big boy britches. It's going to be awesome. Okay, so I don't see any questions coming in. So I'm going to release you back to the wild, but you're welcome to stay.
Scholastic Literacy Pro is a blended reading solution for grades K through 6 that provides educators a single tool to monitor student reading activity, comprehension, and progress. With 3 built-in assessments evaluating students' reading readiness, reading level, and comprehension, Literacy Pro provides real-time data and robust reports to help inform instruction in a meaningful way.
Welcome to Literacy Pro. First, you'll identify lowercase letters.
For emerging readers, the Scholastic Reading Readiness Assessment determines mastery of foundational skills. It informs teachers about their early learners' reading abilities across alphabet recognition, phonemic awareness, syllabication, blending, and decoding. The results from Scholastic Reading Readiness will help teachers determine which students may need additional support in selecting independent reading books. For students who have already mastered foundational reading, Literacy Pro includes the Scholastic Reading Measure, which provides a valid and reliable lexile measure. In this adaptive assessment, students are asked to read passages and answer text-based multiple choice questions that show comprehension. Teachers can assign the Scholastic Reading Measure multiple times a year to monitor progress. At the end of the reading measure, students see their lexile, and educators can see a roll-up of all their students' lexiles as well as their growth over time. Literacy Pro also allows teachers to track both guided reading and lexile levels for every student, supporting either instructional approach. Teachers can always use the data provided to confer with students and communicate with families about their child's progress. The final assessment in Literacy Pro are Think More comprehension checks. Think Mores are text-based quizzes that students complete after they read any ebook or the thousands of paperback books that have connections within Literacy Pro. Think Mores for Spanish language books are available in Spanish as well. During a Think More quiz, students are encouraged to return to the text for evidence. They can view their answers and misconceptions immediately and choose to retake the quiz with a different set of questions. Think Mores provide valuable insight into whether students are comprehending what they read and provide detailed data on 10 higher-order thinking skills. Teachers can view every single question the student answered along with their misconceptions. Scholastic Literacy Pro's assessments were designed with the student in mind, while providing educators essential, authentic data to better inform their daily instruction.